Unfortunately, going out to eat sushi in America has become a show of how much junk we can stuff in a sushi roll, how many toppings we try to fit on top of a once unadorned, beautifully tasting fish. It was no longer about the freshness of the fish, but about ingredients we deeply feel do not belong anywhere near it. So you kind of hear the passion behind the writing voice. Traditionally, nigiri, maki, and sashimi are eaten with an emphasis on taste of fish. We want to make sure American sushi lovers, this is kind of the mission and the goal, get to taste real authentic sushi the way it was originally intended to be eaten. Raw, fresh, simple, and flavorful. This is where we decided to step up and take on this mission, and Sushi Club was born. So there's the mission and the goals all explained there in a little story. So I wanted to also go into why the name. So people need to understand why is it even named the way it is. Sushi Club is a quick, straightforward, and easy to remember name. The word club was used to denote a sense of exclusivity, as in only those who truly enjoy the authentic sushi eating experience can join the club. Our tagline, Authentically Prepared, has our favorite brand word authentic to explain our single focus on our unique, original presentation rooted in tradition and freshness. So a lot of those keywords, they've all been used at least 2 or 3 times already in this first page. So to kind of be aware of that. And kind of teasing them with a usage. And I've since changed a lot of this since that bag is now a different design. That's not as big. But I did this when I was planning the course. But yeah, kind of showing a little bit of excitement on the right, like some kind of positive usage of the brand. And so we want to be able to sum them up in 3 words. And this is a little bit older. I've now done the circles. But I wanted to talk about those keywords of authentic and generous and loyal, the characteristics or personality traits. Just kind of mentioning that quickly in a page. We want to get right down to business. We want to talk about the logo. You can break this down like we did in the presentation and say this is what this means and this is what this means. But really, this is a manual of how to use the brand. So we don't want to go in too much presentation of here's our brand. It's more this is how, it's very technical how we use it. So that's why in this next page, we have all the different logo possibilities, and maybe we're providing all of these logo files. So right here I have, you can download the logo files here at a certain website. So it's kind of pointing them toward where they can find the files. Or if this is online, they can just click a link and go to it. So just showing all the different varieties. We didn't do this in our presentation because it was just too detailed, but this is where we get down to details and nuts and bolts. So this is where we show every single version of the logo that's allowed to be used. You can also in the next page do the do not use and the use. So this is kind of the use page. Please use these. If you want to dedicate another page to how not to use the logo, you can. And definitely talk about logo spacing. So you saw in all the other examples we looked at, they showed what's the spacing around the logo. So you want to make sure you can be very specific and have a pixel size or an inches size, but I'm just doing something really simple by putting it on the grid and making sure it's spaced equally, and the space between the logo type and the logo mark is the same as the space you need to put around it. So it's a simple 1x equation. So I wanted to show positive uses of the brand and how you can integrate some of those logo possibilities into real projects. So this is just kind of ways to use the different logos. So this is kind of the banner version. This is the full logo version. There's even a letterhead. I might need to change that color. I changed that color to do something else. Kind of some ways that I did some type treatment. So I even came up with a quick little letterhead because I didn't have anything outside of the menu to show. So I thought the letterhead would be a good way to show maybe this vertical presentation of the logo. How does it look on a website? Kind of showing our digital icons. We have our colors, and the most important part of this is being able to give them the detailed information. What's the Pantone color? What's the RGB color? This is could even be bigger because this is the most important part of this entire page. So you can even make that bigger so that that is more prominently featured. I like to also show the colors in use with an image, or you can keep this plain and make that bigger and use it that way. With typography, I want to introduce people to the typeface of choice. We only use one typeface. Some brands use 2 or 3 different typefaces. You need to introduce each one. It's also nice to show different weights that you're going to be using and how they look with numbers and letters, just kind of like this example. And also this is where this little chart will come in handy because they're going to need to know the leading, the tracking, and the size of all the typography. I'm also talking about brand language and how to use it. So showing an example of a social media post. And talking more detail about brand language, I just adopted this directly from the presentation, so some of this is already written. But I changed how I wrote it. So instead of we did this, it's our brand language. I'm writing on behalf of the client, so I might need to change the perspective of who's writing it. So our brand language used throughout our advertising, so it's my advertising, my company, I'm writing on behalf of the client. So I had to tweak some of the way I wrote it so it didn't sound like I'm writing it as a designer or a brand creator. I'm writing as behalf of the client, talking to people how to use the brand. So photography guidelines, we had a lesson on this already. So this is where you would show it. You probably noticed in the portfolio and the client presentation, we didn't have this at all because it's just a little bit too detailed for that. This is where it belongs. It belongs in the brand standards guide, but this is the little details of how to use the photography that we want to set forth. And also kind of presenting which photos are in our gallery. And it also teaches you how, this is things we're borrowing. You notice how I'm borrowing a lot. This is the last thing we're doing. We've done so much already. We're kind of borrowing a lot and adapting it. I also want to talk about brand assets. We have the one with a smile that I developed later, so you might want to tell people can you use the pattern and how big can the pattern be. In this case, we have the circle, and I was able to show not only the circle asset and how to use it, but also different color combinations that are good. So I'm not using any color combinations that are bad. So it's kind of a way to show both. So just kind of brand assets. So circles are simple and you can use them in so many ways. Outside of the logo and the accompanying variations, we have the use of the simple circle. Inspired by the shape of the sushi maki roll, we decided to make this our unifying theme. So in these little bubbles, I said, don't be afraid of circles. They are easy to use for headlines. Lots of different ways to use them. Lots of different ways to color them. End phrases with a period. So I'm kind of saying rules, but also kind of being fun and whimsical too. Some of these are kind of usage rules without being kind of boring. So instead of just having a big column that says do and don't, I'm kind of telling the story of how to use it in a more fun, interactive way. And then lastly, it just feels more final. So end phrases with a period, it just feels more final. So that's kind of something you do when you do a headline with this brand, is you end it with a period. So that's kind of a rule that we're introducing. And you want to end every brand guideline with some kind of thing. So we did the see you at the sushi bar. You can use that same exact page. So I want to go in more detail with brand guidelines in a whole nother course because it gets really, really detailed. But you want to take everything we've done so far and put together the rules for typography, for color, for the logo system, everything we've done, set the rules, make it very clear and concise how to use the brand. We want to make this manual timeless. So we want to be able to hand this off to the client. And even if they were to hire some sort of crazy ad agency, they would be able to take everything you've crafted and emulate that to the best that they can. You want to be able to give the client that flexibility to expand their brand with or without you. Obviously, you want to be a big part of it. But this branding standards manual leaves a legacy for you as a designer to make sure that they treat the brand well. They don't mess up how they represent the brand visually, and it makes you look good long term. 5 years from now, they're still using the same standards. Everything's consistent. They're going to look great. It's going to make you look great as a designer too. And being able to offer this as a full service branding item is really important too, because you can start to do big clients, national level clients, where this is kind of standard for them to do a branding guidelines manual. So this is it. I can't believe we're done. This has been a joy to be able to teach you this. I wanted to create a class. This was the most exhausting class I've ever created. I feel like there were so many working parts to this. We had style guides, typography systems, color palettes, We even had 3 different kinds of presentations to put together. That's very intense. I'm so happy you're listening to this. That means you made it to the end. I'm very proud of you as a student. I want you to be able to take everything you've learned, use the templates, rewatch the videos. I want you to create your own brand project. And I want you to do all these different types of deliverables. I want you to create a standards manual. I want you to create a Behance portfolio or a website portfolio case study. I want you to do a client presentation. I want you to work through all the details so that you can have something that'll help you land jobs. This is as detailed of a branding process as you can go through. So if you can do this, you can do almost anything in terms of graphic design, but beyond that, marketing, ad agency, strategy, brand strategy, all of that stuff, higher level stuff, more better paying jobs. That's why I created this course. I want you to get big paying jobs. I want you to not just find jobs, but I want you to be successful and make more money than you're making right now. I really wish that for you guys because this is a very in-demand thing. And I think as graphic designers, we're not just logo designers. We are way more than that. And I want this class to be what teaches you that you are not just a graphic designer, you are just much more than that. You integrate business and marketing and strategy and design all together and research into one final thing. So anyway, I guess this is farewell. I have a lot of different classes if you want to go into the mock-up class and teach how to create those custom mock-ups for your portfolio. I also have a digital design masterclass that goes into a lot more detail about digital projects, app design, icon design, which goes along with the branding process. I have that course. So just check out my other stuff, and I'm just so happy to have you as a student. Thank you.